Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. On this channel, you'll find videos about community services, leadership and management, and anything that I like to talk about. Today, we're going to talk about conflict and how we can address when conflict happens. So in today's video, we will discuss what conflict is and when it can happen and what you should do when conflict arises. Now, conflict is any situation when some sort of disagreement, argument happens between two parties, and it can show up at any time. It can show up at home, at work, with friends, even with strangers. And the truth is that conflict is a part of life. You can never avoid it. You can only manage it. It's not always bad. It can actually lead to your growth and clarity and help you build stronger relationships only if we know how to communicate effectively when it happens. So in this video today, let's talk about the 3 reactions that we give when conflict arises, and then I'll talk about some practical strategies that may come handy when you're handling conflict in a healthier way. So let's start. If you ever shouted, shut down, or said things that you regret, stick around and continue watching. The first reaction that you give to conflict is shouting, anger. That's a very common reaction. Imagine that you are in a meeting and a colleague cuts you off once or twice and you feel disrespected and ignored by him, and suddenly you snap. You shout at the person, you say mean things to the person, you say, "You never let me finish. Why do you always have to do this thing? Why do you try taking control of the situation?" You're letting the anger takes over, and before you know it, you're yelling at a person, or even worse, sometimes saying things just to hurt the other person back. The problem with this is anger hijacks our brain and we lose control, we stop thinking clearly, and we speak to win the argument rather than resolving it. So what do you do instead? The things that I think works when we are in anger is to take a pause immediately. Now, taking a pause wouldn't come naturally to us because that's not an instant reaction, especially when we're losing control. So how do we take a pause? That comes with practice. Take a deep breath. Sometimes some people may prefer to count to 10 silently in your brain. Help slow down your nervous system. If you need to take some space, ask the person, need to go grab some water, step outside. Try to remember that you want to respond to the situation, you do not want to react to it. Instead of yelling at the person, try saying something like, "I'm really frustrated at the moment and I want to talk about this, but right now I need a moment to calm myself down." And just breathe in and breathe out. That might help. So this would show that you're emotionally mature and also gives both parties a space to cool off. The second reaction that we may give towards conflict is silence, the stonewalling treatment. Now, what's a stonewalling treatment? Let's talk about it. This is when you shut down the communication completely. For example, if you are in disagreement with your partner and they say something that hurts you, and then you want to say something back to them to also make them feel the way they're hurting you, but you try remaining silent and you're not responding, and in your head you're thinking that by not responding you're probably not adding on any sort of fuel to the conflict, or you're just totally shutting down the communication. You're ignoring the person, you're ignoring their existence, you do not want to maintain the eye contact, you do not want to talk to them, you just want to remain silent and go to your cave. So this is often our brain's way of avoiding pain, but in reality, silence becomes a barrier that blocks your resolution. So how do we address something like that when people are so used to stonewalling and just closing off? A better way to handle it, instead of remaining silent, try finding words. I usually prefer to have something already written which I can use later when I know that I would go silent on a person, which I do often, so I know that that's a communication barrier for me. But you can also use something like that I use, or can have your own script. But how I would respond to that, like, I'm really hurt and upset right now, and my instinct, my go-to reaction is to just ignore you right now and ignore this conversation. But I don't want to do this because I want to be the problem solver, and also because I care about this relationship and I care about this person, and I don't want to ruin that just because I want to win the argument. And I need few minutes. Let's talk it when I'm feeling a little bit calmer. So have something like that written for your own self, which you know, and you can record in your head. And it's not easy, but it will come handy. And once you say that, it'll give you a pause in that moment of silence to reflect and then respond. This also allows you to acknowledge your feelings, that you are feeling emotional, frustrated, anxious in that moment, and you want to validate that. It also sets a healthy boundary, and it leaves a door open for a healthier communication to resolve the issue. Remember that it transforms the avoidance into self-regulation. You're portraying a lot of self-control here. The third reaction that we all do is defensiveness and the blame game. This is another trap we fall into during our conflict, and we start getting defensive. For example, if your manager said your report had several issues, and your immediate response is, "It's not my fault. You didn't give me enough time. You should have provided a better timeline." And everybody makes mistakes. So this is natural that we want to protect ourselves, but blaming or over-explaining can also make the situation a little worse and sometimes shut down the open communication. So how do we, because to err is human and everyone makes mistakes. So own your part and do not put that blame on the other person. Stay calm and remain silent when someone tries to give you a feedback, because the feedback would allow you your growth. If you're not receiving any feedback, you're actually blocking that perspective or the comment that the other person may they could offer, and that could really help you in your growth. So you're blocking that communication there. So I would handle it by thanking the person that they highlighted that I did this error, and at the same time taking the ownership that I made this error this part, but also next time it would be better if we can discuss about the timeline in advance or do something to help address the situation. And at the same time, you want to remain humble and you want to apologize, but also don't over apologize, because if you've done nothing wrong, you need to stand your grounds too. There's a balance between being humble and standing your ground. So there you have it. These are the three top reactions that we give towards conflict and how we can address it. And to sum up, the 5 main communication techniques here, I'd highlight again. First thing is, you always use the I statement because you want to take the ownership. I feel disrespected when I'm being interrupted, instead of you always talk like that to me or you always interrupt me. Don't put that on the other person, but take the ownership on yourself. Always stay focused on the issue. What is the issue that we're resolving here? Do not bring up your past 5 arguments in this current one fight. So stay focused on that. And listen actively. Listen with curiosity. Do not just listen because you want to give a reply back. Listen because you want to understand where the other person's coming from. Try putting yourself in their shoes and understand their perspective. Watch your tone and your body language as well, because yes, the words are important, but it's even more important how you say those words. So your tone, your volume, all of these things are also adding up. And after the conflict happened, check in with the person. Ask them, are you okay? Is there anything else we should talk about? And this would really help you communicate better when we are in conflicting situations. So to wrap it up for you, conflict is unavoidable and you have to respond to it instead of reacting to it. And that's where the whole difference is. Whether it is, taking a pause before you speak, or being honest, or owning your mistakes, or learning to listen better, these small shifts in your communication can lead to more respectful conversations. The goal isn't to win the argument. It is to preserve the relationship and solve the issue. Thanks for watching everyone. If you found this useful, please give it a thumbs up. Please also feel free to share it with your friends and family. And remember, like any other skill, effective communication takes practice, but it's one of the most powerful tools you'll ever build. Take care. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.